My body was just wrecked. I was emotionally bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt, to the point of 19 trying to take my own life.
Morgan T. Nelson, life and business strategist, financially free at the age of 23, first $1 million by 28.
The two biggest poisons of the body, first one is anger. The second poison that people consume on a day-to-day basis that they don't even know about is...
I love this journey of podcast where it literally feels like a therapy session.
This is why environment is key, because what if what they think is normal is completely different from your perception of normal now?
You could give people a piece of advice to get to 7 figures and beyond. What would it be?
Yeah, you need to have a
Cosmic Money, the podcast, the strategy and energetics of 7-figure business.
Hello, gorgeous beings. Welcome to today's podcast. I'm your host, Sky Hanley. Yay. And I'm here with an amazing inspiration and person I get to call a friend, which is I feel very lucky to be able to do that. Morgan T. Nelson. He is a life and business strategist. Amongst other things, he was financially free at the age of 23, first $1 million by 28. You make me a little bit jealous, buddy. Top 6 podcast yourself in the personal development category. And I feel like you are maybe equally as obsessed with human behavior and psychology and NLP and all these different amazing things as I am, if not a little bit more so. I'll allow it. Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so glad to be here on this incredible show you put together. So I'm super excited to have a chat with all you people and jam out with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And I love the suck up already. That's like, throw a compliment my way and you'll just win me over. So I actually want to tell you something. I was thinking about this, just kind of contextualizing it for our audience in terms of why you're here, why I would want to invite you and different things like that. And I actually have to throw myself under the bus because this is a story you don't really know. And
Okay.
so when Morgan and I first met was we were in a mentorship program together. And so we would just kind of see each other in passing, probably it was quite often just the two of us, on a Zoom meeting with our mentor and all the rest of it. And I was always like, fuck, who's this wanker? Like, he's such a douche, And I was like, what? Like, I don't know, I don't get it kind of thing and whatever. And I remember being like, look, he seems like he runs some pretty impressive events. I guess I'll go, check him out. And then I went to your events and I was so fucking humbled in just how amazing you are and how charismatic, but more so than that, how much you actually genuinely care, and seeing your energy and your genius shine through in the absolute place where you are meant to be, which is on stage in front of humans serving, was, as I said, the only word I can use is humbling, probably because it put my, extensive ego in its place. And I've been lucky enough to come and do a few of your workshops and programs and things like that over the last few years. And every time I'm genuinely surprised and, taken aback and learn something new and different and all those kinds of things. So that's my little throwing myself under the bus.
That is so funny. I had no idea, but it's always, it really is always that, in the personal development space, or like every single time I've gone into a program or an event or something, and I've seen somebody that is not necessarily trigger something in me, but I'm like, what the fuck? Or because it brings out people's personalities, right? Every single time I see that, I'm like, oh, that's somebody I really need to get to know, because it's something in me. I never forget, and I share this story very openly about this guy. And your audience will probably love this, right? Because it's really spiritual, this guy. But one of my friends, Danny, I was walking to an event and I saw this guy all over social media, and I kind of knew of him, and it just wasn't really my type of person. Like he was like that super spiritual, where they wear essential oil for deodorant and smells like a tree, right? And I was like, it's just not really my vibe. But next time I see this guy hanging his head out the window of the event space, I'm like, oh my God, 14 days with this guy I didn't even want to never see in my life. After day 1, I knew, I was like, I've just got to go and hang out with this guy. So I went and had lunch with him, and he's like, oh, we're going to a vegan restaurant. I'm like, well, of course you're fucking vegan as well, right? and then instantly I was like, we actually became really good friends, and now we're like best buds. And So it's always interesting how this shit
I
happens.
hear that actually, yeah, as you said, quite regularly around in even the personal development space and things like that. That yeah, quite often there may be somebody who completely, triggers you, but we could change that word and say activates instead, because it's activating something inside of you. And I think that potentially in personal development as well, you have a lot of, let's call them fully expressed people, out there
Yeah.
who are probably doing the work and really showing up as themselves. So, in one way or another, they're probably going to be a little bit polarizing, or grind against something, on the odd occasion anyway.
Yeah. Well, all it is our projections of ourselves
Yeah.
anyway, right? So it's like every single thing we see in someone else, only we can only see it because it also exists inside of us. Even all of the amazing things, but even all of the horrible things.
Mm,
And that's why I just love it. Because the first time I started to learn about this, I asked the question. I say, but what about the people that you're just like, I can see how I'm that person. I can see how that person's funny. I like them because they're funny because that's me. I can see how that person don't really like them because they're a little bit stubborn, and I can see that actually, yeah, sometimes I can be stubborn and I'm a bit of a control freak, sure, but not that motherfucker over there. I'm not that motherfucker because he's a piece of shit. And what Carl Jung actually says, Carl Jung is actually the grandfather of psychology, and he's the one who actually really created this whole our own projection, our shadow, essentially.
mm,
And the parts of us that are so deep that we reject the most. So the people that we look at and we say, that person is not us at all, he says is actually even more you than you know,
mm,
because that part is just so deeply unconscious. And of course, this just opens up the door to at what level of responsibility do we want to play in our life? Because everything has been put in front of us to actually learn from.
mm,
So if we want to look at somebody and go, how, like this is the most confronting question, but the most growth filled question I've ever had in my life is, how is that me?
mm,
How is that person me? For the people that cuts us off in traffic, the people that yells at us, the people that are so lovely to us, we can always ask and go, how is that person me? Because based off quantum physics and based off our shadow and based off just modern day and ancient psychology, is that we will only ever be able to see in our reality an exact projection of what we perceive on the inside of us. Otherwise, our brain just will not simply pick it up and form it in our reality. Yes, there's things happening around us and things that are happening, but we're not aware of them consciously. We will continually meet people that are on our vibration, that are on our
mm,
frequency. We'll meet people that are just reflections of who we are inside. That's why two people can look at one exact person. Let's take someone who's so controversial like Andrew Tate.
mm,
How can one person look at him and go, "What an absolute piece of shit," and yet the other person looks at him and goes, "What an incredible man."
mm,
How is that possible? Because the person who can look at somebody, right? And I'm saying this objectively, the person who can look at somebody as controversial as Andrew Tate and go, "What a piece of shit," is highlighting parts of you that either you haven't fully accepted as yourself, or parts of you that you actually are that you just are not aware of.
mm,
So if we could look at someone like, let's just take like a young man, for example, looking at like an Andrew Tate and go, "Oh, what an arsehole is this, this, and this." Perhaps, and I'm not, because I got no idea who this kid is I'm referring to, but perhaps what it's doing is shining a light on what you actually have been suppressing or what you need to step into as a man.
mm,
Because I've met people that have annoyed me or triggered me or whatever. And let's call this Danny for a moment, okay? The guy from the start. What I noticed in him was he was actually, what was so annoying about him in the beginning was what I got down to it was he was just so authentic. Like he was wearing a fucking kilt,
mm.
like a man just wearing a dress, and I was like, "What the fuck, man? Like, can't you just be normal?" And then I got to the depths of it. I was like, I actually love this guy so much because he genuinely doesn't give a fuck. Like today when he woke up, he wanted to wear a kilt, so he did. And I was like, that's just, I'm not gonna wear a kilt, but I
Ultimate
just love the
freedom.
fact. Yeah, I'm like, I just love that this guy is so authentic, and what I saw,
Mm,
it was the thing in me. How was this me? Was it was highlighting who I need to step into. It was highlighting the fact, well, what if you stopped caring even more about what other people think and you actually step more into your authenticity that is just you?
mm,
Because the whole world is caught up in that, wearing a mask of who do I need to be for you to like me? Who do I need to be to my boss, to my partner, to my kids, to my mother in law, my father in law, my parents, my siblings, social media? everyone's wearing masks based off who they think they should be, so I can get you to like me.
Mm.
But these people are just showing us who we need to be so that we like we.
Mm.
So I love bumping into people that are like, I don't like them. How is this still me? Because I like to play at a
Yeah.
level where I'm like, I'm gonna take full responsibility of my life so I can grow.
I love, this journey of podcasts, right? Where it literally feels like a therapy session for myself every time I sit down with another amazing next level, coach such as yourself, right? And even in that story that I knew that I was going to bring forward and share with you, I already knew like the projection that was my own bullshit, that was just me having a little ego moment and being like, I don't know about this person, like what is it kind of thing, and probably my own smugness, like projecting this kind of thinking, oh, this guy's a bit smug or something like that, and that was
That's so
completely
funny.
like, you're
Do you
welcome.
remember? Do you remember what? Do you remember what it was? Do you remember what it was about me that you were like?
Like this is why I mean it's like therapy. We seem to be taking what I already thought I knew and I thought I already journeyed, and now we're just taking it to another level. I think what it was like, I don't know. The only way I can put it was I thought there was a bit of broness to it. There was a bit kind of like nonchalant, like, yeah, this is happening. Yeah, and probably some confidence in there. Like, you're a fucking big deal, but you also like are are so humbled yourself and so genuinely caring. Like, and I hadn't seen that yet. And so my
Mm.
perception was something else, my own projection, right? That what I thought I saw was this smugness or something along those lines. And exactly, perhaps it was a more grounded certainty than expected, I guess.
It's so funny, hey? I love it.
So,
I love it.
segueing away from me and my own bullshit. So, what then got you so interested in this side of like human behavior and psychology and how humans work and mindset and all the fascinating stuff, those layers of the onions that we get to journey?
Yeah, so pretty much, when I finished school, I went all the way to grade 12 for the parties and the girls. There was no other reason other than that. I wasn't good academically. I had no future ahead of me. I didn't even get anywhere near a good enough score finishing school that will allow me to study anything in university, even if I wanted to.
Mm,
So when I left, I really had a belief that I was stupid, I wasn't smart, I wouldn't amount to anything. And I was told to go and get a job as a carpenter, pretty much. Like, go get a trade. So that's what I did. It led me down a path of depression, anxiety. I was 19 years old, addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, working 7 days a week for 3 weeks straight. We're doing 14 to 15 hours a day. My body was just wrecked. I was emotionally bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt, everything, to the point of 19 trying to take my own life, thinking that it was the only way to actually. I literally thought I got cheated by life.
mm,
And I was like, what the hell? I was so happy in my life, now this. And it made me sort of realize that we are on a bit of a journey, but it made me realize that perhaps I just haven't figured it all out yet. And everything in life is a bit of a pendulum swing, because a year before that, things were rocking. And then now I was in the absolute pit of shit. And, but it made me start to realize that what was the biggest thing? What was the biggest difference between back then? I was so happy living my life. I was still a tradie, and I thought I had the best career ever. I was like, I'm loving life. This is amazing. But here I am a year later trying to kill myself. And what it came to me was I was surrounded by different people.
mm,
And it started to make me think that, what if I surround myself with people that are broke, depressed, and alcoholic all the time? Like, what if I keep surrounding myself with these people? I'm probably going to be exactly like them in 10, 20 years.
mm,
And so I started to change the people I surround myself with. I came back to the Gold Coast. I got immersed with people that are actually also goal driven, because I did want to be successful from a young age. I think I was always fascinated on. I remember my first ever boss, they were millionaires and they had a convertible and lived on the water. And I was just thought it was so fascinating. And I'd come home and I'd see that we didn't have those things. And I just started to see the two sides from the early age where I was like, what is the difference here? And one had a business, and my parents never had businesses. So I think I always wanted to go into that sort of space. I just didn't know how to do it.
mm,
But 21 years old, I start my first business. I get introduced to the network marketing space, actually, and had no idea what it was all about. I just saw that it was a way that you could start a business online and you didn't need a degree and stuff. And I was like, that's amazing. I can do this. But my friend hands me a CD of Jim Rohn, and he goes, start listening to this every day. I'm like, okay. I put this guy, Jim Rohn, into my car, I drive to work every single day, 56-minute recording, 52-minute drive to work every day. So for the last 4 minutes every day, I'd sit in the car and finish the CD. And that ingrained in my soul. Jim Rohn's voice, things like, don't wish life were easier, wish you were better. The same wind blows on us all, the wind of disaster, the wind of heartbreak, the wind of setback, the wind of opportunity. It's not the blowing of the wind that determines your destination, it's the set of your sail. And I was like, holy shit, man, these are some wild philosophies that I would much rather live my life by. And it just started to change the way I think. And I got obsessed on all of this. And I was flicking through my phone the other day, okay, because I'm pretty dyslexic. Like I you know, it's just very hard to read and all these things. Like, not that I like to label with things, but I never read a book until I was 23 years old. So when I first started getting to this space and trying to articulate how I thought and what was feeling for me on the inside, I really struggled with it. And how I used to try translate that was I would see quotes on the internet and I would share these quotes. And I was looking back the other day and I saw all these quotes. And I was like, this was the moment that changed me. I had a massive piece of picture on my paper on my wall. And every day I'd get home. And if I had a new download, a new thought, a new quote, I'd write quotes. And this was where it really started to change. Just thinking that, what if I could just change some of the beliefs that I think inside my brain about myself? What if I could change the philosophy that drives the action? Because a lot of people never think about that. They think, I want to create a lifestyle. That's what they actually think when they say, why do you get into personal development? Why do you want to have a business? Why do you want to get healthy? What is it? Because everybody wants an end result, which is a lifestyle. They want freedom. They want to travel. They want the bank account. They want the body. They want the relationship. So then they reverse engineer it and they go, well, okay, what do I need before I get the lifestyle? Well, I need a result. Okay, what's the result I need? $1 million. I need the boyfriend. I need the girlfriend. I need this. I need that. That's the result. Great. How do I now get the result? Well, I need to take action. Of course. Okay, well, I need to work. I need to go to the gym. I need to go on 100 dates. I need to build my business. So they wonder why then in 1, 2, 3 years' time, why they're still hustling and not getting anywhere. And I see this all the time. People come in my room. But I've been building my business for years and it's still not happening, or I've been trying so hard and I get some results, I cut it back down, or I procrastinate, or I doubt all this. And it comes down to because they never went one step forward again. And the one step before the action is the philosophy that drives all of the action. See, if the weeds inside of our brain are stemming things like, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, if I'm successful, no one will love me, and all these sorts of things, if that's what's driving the action, then we will either not take all the action we can and tap into all the potential, or we'll take shitty action and we'll literally attract to us what's happening at the deep unconscious level, because that's how the world's actually working. So, of course, I didn't know this at that point. But what really got me into it was this obsession with thinking about, I can change these philosophies within my brain. And I just feel a lot better when I think about these things. I'm acting better. And then it opened the door to personal development. And then it begged the question, why weren't we taught this in school? And that's, I think, really where the obsession came from. Maybe it started with a bit of a chip on my shoulder, like fucking school. But
You can't
I
sense it at
also,
all. There's no chip.
yeah, like no, like it's. I think in the beginning it was that, but now
Yeah.
I'm like, school's great. Like everyone's doing the best they can with what they get, what they got. Like sure, but the thing is, like this personal development stuff, I just really got obsessed because I think I finally found something that I really did enjoy learning, and it opened the door of now 8-9 years, invested over $300,000 into personal development, work with some of the biggest people in the world like Tony Robbins, DeMartini, Bob Proctor's, these people, just to really figure out why we do the things we do. And then what I got really obsessed was how did I go from at 19 years old trying to kill myself, 21 years old, started my first business, financially free at $23 million by 28. In the space of there, I've also traveled 50 countries. I've lived around the world and I've had so much freedom. I've only worked full time for 5 years of my life. And so I guess it really backed up the obsession by going, how the fuck did I do that? And then I've cracked the code, and that's what I've spent the rest of my life teaching people how to do.
It's amazing that you actually really highlight a point here that that I know I had a particular journey in my own life, and people, I've shared my story on our podcast and things like that before around the saying that changed my life. And the saying, to repeat it because it's the best thing ever, the saying was, our lives will only expand in proportion to how much courage we are willing to have. And at the
Mm,
time I knew I was playing small, and I knew that, like, I get goosebumps still now because, I knew for my life to expand, to get better, to be more amazing, I had to have equal amounts of courage, to get me there. But the piece of information, like, that's the story. That's the story I tell. But what people don't know, what that equaled off the back of it, was exactly what you were just saying as well. I got obsessed with reprogramming my brain every single day, and it wasn't easy. I had to pick one thing at a time, where it was like, okay, when was I my most happiest? Last, and when I'm studying, I love studying. So I started to study something new, and then I was like, what else? And I was like, okay, I don't feel like I have a lot of friends that I like hanging out with now. So I took up soccer, and the other was St. John's Ambulance, because I was like, now I have things to do on the weekend and people to hang out with. And I used to get obsessed listening to personal development CDs and tapes, and every time I was in my room getting ready, I would be programming myself, listening to these things on repeat, where up on the wall it said, our lives will only expand in proportion to how much courage we are willing to have. So with that
mm.
similarity, in mind, is there something that, a piece of advice that you would give, that version of yourself back then, the one who was still struggling and things like that, to what piece of advice would you give that person, to take things to the next level, to get obsessed, to, put themselves in an environment? What would you have them do?
But the biggest thing I think I'll bring it back to is the environment, how everything is just everything comes down to the right environment. So
I've spent my life obsessed with the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business. I've literally traveled the world trying to crack the code. And what I've found is that when you couple the pursuit of making massive amounts of money with the strategy and science of success, plus having a desire for significant impact and contribution, magic happens. That's why I created a free 21-day next level vortex money mission magic. Hell yes to that. This 21-day quantum business challenge is here to shift you into new timelines and realities. 21 days to quantum shift your impact, business, and your bank account. These carefully crafted and channeled tools are the exact things I've used to create a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I'm not done yet. If you're ready for incredible transformation now in all areas of your life, more money and financial freedom, freedom of time, freedom of lifestyle, freedom of choice, better, more connected relationships, greater levels of health, and simply calling in more magic into every single day, then these 21 days are going to blow your mind. 21 days of powerful universal, behavioral, and strategic tools to quantum shift your internal state so that you start to see massive changes in your external reality, bringing the metaphysical into the physical. Join the challenge now and get ready for the most powerful 21-day expansion to quantum shift your impact, business, bank account, and your life.
Cosmic Money, the podcast, the strategy and energetics of seven-figure business.
one thing I teach is the 4 pillars of creating a dream life, right? So you need the right environment, the right vehicle, the right timing, and the right you. We can dive into them if you want, but the right environment is the very first thing. And you need to have this, and this is because how about I dive a little bit into this, okay? Because if I say back to younger me or anyone listening to this right now who's like kind of feel like they're stuck or they need to figure it out and they're like, what do I do? You've got to be in the right environment with the right people. But then you'll probably say to me, yeah, but I already know that. You're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Gotcha. But let me ask you a question. Do you actually do it? Because you wouldn't believe how many people that know that, but then they still decide to go to a fucking festival on the weekend and surround themselves with a bunch of druggos who are just getting lit. And that's how they spend their weekend. I know so many people that are like, oh, but I want to be successful and happy. But they go back to their drama-fueled toxic relationships or their friends that they're too afraid to move away from because these friends of theirs they've known for 10 years. Like there's so many things like this and they cheat themselves because they go, no, but I'm hanging around with you though. I get you. You are hanging around with me. But what are you doing when you're not with me? What are you doing when you're not with us in this community, in this group, in this circle, or at these events? Or what are you listening to when you're not consuming podcasts like this? Because I tell you what, one of my mentors said to me one time, I stayed at her house, and she comes up to me, and we're staying there. She goes, I just want to say how proud I am of you. And I said, thank you. Why? And she's like, because you've been here for 2 days and you've got me back into listening to podcasts. I said, how? She goes, because all you fucking do is walk around the house with a podcast playing in your pocket. Because I usually play it on loud. Because if I'm not doing anything for like 3 seconds, I fill that 3 seconds with space of something, right? And I walk around listening to podcasts or YouTubes and that's just always what I've done, because I just know that in your environment is stronger than willpower. If there's nothing happening, I'm probably going to think about shitty things, or I'm going to get distracted with something, or go easily lay on the couch and get on TikTok. And she's like, you just consume so much like content. You're putting so much in your brain. And I think it's amazing because so many people don't do that. I'm like, well, that's true, because I just understand the importance of like really drowning out the noise. Like if we have, and in the beginning, that's exactly what we need to do when you go drown out the noise. If you go scoop up a jug of really dirty, murky water and you've got it all in your jar, and you put in a drop of clean water, nothing's going to happen. If you put in a drop and 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 a drop, still nothing's going to happen. What you need to do is put that cup underneath a fucking free-flowing tap of fresh water for probably an hour. And it will eventually push all the shit out and refill it with good stuff. That's how the brain must work. It's not surrounding yourself with a great person one time, then going back to a shit environment.
Yeah.
And that is the thing. Like that's why environment is so important. But I'll give you one study. Is psychologists, this is the very first psychological test they ever did on human beings. They wanted to test our behavior. And what they did was they put 4 people in a room. 3 of them were paid actors and one of them was a real person. And they drew 4 lines on the screen. One of the lines was like double the size. And they say to everybody, all you need to do is go in there and circle which line stands out from the most. Now, the real person, so the actors go in and they told the actors, you all need to choose A. And it was just one of the normal lines. So the actors go in and choose A. And the real guy comes in, looks at them, laughs, and he's like, what the fuck? Thinking psychedelic testing is next door, right? And he's like, guys, it's D, right? He circles D. It's like, what the fuck? It's clearly double the size. They reset, they do it again. Comes back in. They all get told to choose the wrong one again. And the next time, the guy looks at them a little bit more doubtful this time. He's like, what the hell? No, it's D. And they do it again and again and again. By the time they get to the 4th, 5th, sometimes 6th time, the real person will come in and actually select the same circle that the group selected. And that's not even many times. That's 4, 5, 6 times. And what they've noticed is that it's more important for us as human beings to fit in with our clan, with our tribe, than it is for us to stand out and be right. And we've just seen this through COVID. So many people had an opinion, whether it be right or wrong, and they felt very swayed. You don't believe how many people I talked to who were like, oh, yeah, I got the jab and I didn't want to. But if you didn't want to do it, why did you get it? Oh, because, I don't know, everybody did it. Don't you think that's a little bizarre? You know, and I don't think I've publicly actually commented on what side I was ever on that debate. I just like to bring things to people's awareness, because what happens is we are tribal beings where we think back to the ancient times. What we know biologically is that we're safer when we're with when we're with our clan. We're safest there. And our number one concern of the unconscious mind is to stay alive. How can I survive? So if we think that choosing the answer that we know is right is going to potentially lead us to a world that's unsafe, then we won't choose it. We will choose what the rest of the people are doing because we know that's safe. But the problem with this is we now live for the rest of our life in our gut knowing that we chose the wrong answer, but we chose what was easy. And this also comes down to the entrepreneurship world. You think, oh, I want to start a business. I want to do this whole thing. And you go and tell the people around you, hey, I'm thinking about starting this business. And they all go, what the hell? You're crazy. You can't start a business, this and this and this and this. We don't do that around here. Then you go, yeah, well, maybe you're right. And you join back into the clan because you go, well, no one around me is doing a business. So I guess that's the safest option. But this is why environment is key, because what if your environment what if what they think is normal is completely different from your perception of normal now? What if you come into a new environment and you go, guys, the answer is D. And they go, no, it's fucking not. Of course you can start a business. Of course you can have this. Of course you can do this. What's eventually going to happen is you're going to think it's safer to also do what they do. So if you surround yourself with people that are a lot more successful than you, eventually it's going to rub off on you. And psychologically, it's going to be more important for you to also fit in with that group than it will be for you to choose and choose what you believe was once right, what you've done for your entire life. Just like the water in the jug. You just got to hold it there long enough, and eventually it's going to drown out all the rest of the shit. That's why, like, if people are looking to really change their life, the only thing they've got to do is to change the people that give them the most time and information through their five senses. If we're really looking to change our life, we've got to change our environment first.
One of the most, I think, powerful frames I remember many years ago, like changing and shifting myself, was just being mindful of some of the conversations that I was having with particular people. And these could be people that you love and that you're not about to be like, that's it, clearing out my environment, getting rid of all these people, you know, and things like that. These could be some of the nearest and dearest people to anyone. And so what I started to do was just really curate my environment, like not only for the amazing next level places that I was putting myself in, but when I did have to be in environments that I thought may not think the same as I do, I simply would maybe even shut conversations down, or, you know, not have them or not talk about a particular thing, and not out of some like, you know, like negative trigger or anything like that, but it just be like, it's actually okay for this conversation to not happen in this place, because then I get to continue to hold the belief that I have, you know, for my own success, for my own entrepreneurship, for my own views on life and, you know, all the amazing things, universe and all the rest of it, and just curate, you know, what was and wasn't going on within my vision. And by being able to do that and be selective about conversations, people, times, places, things, you know, then even during, you know, if you use COVID as the example, people are going, oh my God, all these things are happening. There's a lot of drama and blah, blah, blah. I was like, is there? Okay. Like, you know, just not my reality. You know, not my reality. I'm not discounting it. I'm sure it's happening out there somewhere, but my reality, you know, gets to be what I allow it to be, you know, what filters I put on, you know, what comes through, and it either is going to serve me, you know, or not.
Yeah, I'm the same. You know, for COVID, it was actually a pretty beautiful experience.
Yeah.
It was just chill. It was great. I started my podcast. I started a new business. It was just awesome. I was like, I like the variety in life. But here's also the thing: if and we've also seen now studies have come out to showing that, lo and behold, the vaccine was actually probably not a great decision for a lot of people. And there's been lots of things that have come out. And there was a lot of people during the space that were like so vile, that were so like, how could you anti-vax, going mental, right?
Yeah.
And if you ask them why are you so angry, because they're trying to put jabs in me. Here's the thing: I guarantee you, if we got someone who actually got all the vaccines and we tested their DNA, tested their blood, and then we took the blood from somebody who was rioting and leading protests and turned their whole life into anti-COVID for the time, I guarantee you that person probably had more poison in their body than anyone who got 100 jabs.
Yeah.
Because it's an emotional thing. They've tested this on rats. They've taken the saliva out of the mouth of someone who was extremely angry, gave it to a rat. The rat didn't last 14 days. It's shown to actually be poison. Anger is poison. The two biggest poisons of the body that people consume every single day and they don't even realize, and there's been countless studies to show this. First one is anger. It's been proven that anger is literally, it's toxic, it's poison. And people hold on to anger thinking like and they hold it against somebody else. They're like, oh, fuck this person, they did me wrong. But that's literally like drinking poison, hoping that they're going to die. And it's been proven, 47% of cancer is actually proven to come from conflict in the body, which is anger, okay? And the second poison that people consume on a day-to-day basis that they don't even know about is loneliness.
Mm,
They
yep.
did the longest psychological test they ever did on humans, okay? So not the longest ever did, but this was the longest duration. It went for, I think, 70 something years. So think about how many professors had to get past the torch down to continue this study to go. And they tested a whole bunch of people, and they simply just wanted to see who lived the longest and most fulfilling happy life. Now you'd probably think that the people who lived the longest life and the most happy life would be the people with the richest. They got all the freedom, they got the money, they got the business, they got the girls, the whatever. And it wasn't the case at all.
Mm,
What they realized is the people who lived the happiest lives were the ones that actually had the most fulfilling relationships
mm,
and the most deep relationships. And what they noticed was the people who died from natural causes, just like old age, the ones who died the earliest were the most lonely.
mm.
And they've proven that loneliness is actually one of the biggest diseases that people let into their body, the biggest poisons that people let into their body on a day-to-day basis without even being aware of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I know for myself, obviously I have my own little health journey and things like that, with MS, and, all our listeners know that as well. Um,
I never knew
and
that.
there you go. There's new information. I have multiple
There you
sclerosis.
go.
Hello. And however, again, I really, I was always a bit like, thank you for the diagnosis, but that's not my prognosis. And so
Mm.
I had to get really good at hacking myself, because my inclination used to be abrasiveness. My inclination used to be burnout and things like that, and all of this kind of, as you said, toxin, this deliberate stress. I was a bouncer for a few years, you know what I mean? And so I was constantly, yes. This is where the gangster in me comes from. You're learning all the new things now.
That is hilarious.
Right? And so I was, and during that time, like, coming from working in like big pubs and clubs, the alcohol industry and things like that, going, then being a bouncer, like I was hyper alert, hyper aware, like hyper vigilant, so cortisol and not that I was probably a little bit angry in there somewhere, but I had to even be so good to be able to squash it all down. And I think even the act of squashing all these things down, because you have to be focused and hyper vigilant, hyper aware constantly, it's no surprise to me why my body then went, oh, by the way, your brain is a foreign object and we now need to attack your brain, like with your immune
Mm.
system to get this foreign object outside of you, you know and at the end of the day, anytime that I have had, a little bit of a wobbly moment, like with my own MS and stuff, is because of chronic low grade stress, and that speaks to your point that chronic low grade stress, the insidious kind that gnaws away at us across time and space, is actually, one of the biggest contributors in dis-ease within the body than anything else, not acute stress, but literally chronic low grade stress, like looking after, carers burnout, or looking after, a sick loved one, or, being in a relationship that you hate, or a job that is so fucking unfulfilling, it's life sucking every single day. Like, these are the things that, as you said, contribute to disease within the body.
Yeah, I'd 100% believe that.
Yeah.
Like the unfulfillment. The
Yeah, the
unfulfillment. You see people walking around living a life that's just totally lost and unfulfilled, and it just doesn't. Like I did it for a long time. I did for 5 years. Um, like I couldn't imagine a life longer, but I could definitely imagine how it would be if it was completely like untreated. It's
Yes.
emotions in our body are, you're mentioning it like a suppression thing.
Mm,
Like what we don't suppress will eventually express,
yeah.
but it will come out in ways that we don't necessarily like. It's like pushing a beach ball underwater, and we can put it on there all we
Yeah.
like, and we can pretend it doesn't exist. We can put our elbow on it and our knee on it, but eventually what's going to happen one day is just going to come up and smash us right in the
Yeah.
face. And yeah, yeah, it's important stuff.
So much is actually within our control, even what we're talking about today. And although we're here for a business podcast, it's like, these are the emotional things within the human and the human journey, that need to be looked at, to be able to have that successful, that's the word I'm after, that sexful life, full of fulfillment, and all of these amazing things, and part of the biggest thing that we can do to contribute to your bottom dollar and to contribute to your bank account and all the rest of it is literally, show up in your greatest excitement, to be fulfilled, to serve, and to look after you, the human, and the emotionality of it and the mentality of it, and experience life sometimes even as a bit of an observer, right? Like if you can disconnect from the things that are happening as if it's happening to you rather than for you, if we can just take a step back, and be like, what am I learning? What is this teaching me in this moment? Why is this here for me?
That is the greatest, I guess, skill. Whenever we're emotionally attached into it, I guess that's probably one of the biggest things I've learned to do is just release attachment to everything. Like nothing in this life has any meaning except the meaning we give it. Everything just is happening. And why this is also, I guess, important for business is because everything we have in our life is because we attracted it in our life. And if we really want to talk about like law of attraction, is the law of attraction doesn't happen because of the thoughts we think. The law of attraction doesn't happen because of the vision board we created. The law of attraction will happen because of who we become in the process.
Yeah.
And then we attract things to us, which will then bridge the gap between where we are and the ultimate thing we have. And then we go, oh my God, I manifested my dream life. Yeah, you kind of did. But what you did is you manifested many things that helped you get there. And the process of doing that is to continually raise your vibration and continually release shitty emotions and attachments to things that haven't served you in the past.
Yeah.
Like, I think the biggest thing that's stopping people from really achieving the ultimate success they want is holding on to guilt, fear, and shame.
Yeah.
All these lower level just fears or emotions. They feel bad about things they've done in the past. They feel bad about leaving their friends and family behind. They feel shame because they had to do something one time and they didn't like it, or what happened when they were 6 years old. And then they're afraid of having the success or not having the success, and they're bound by these emotions.
Mm.
And this is why, like, have you seen, like, when at my events we do a lot of mindset and a lot of transformational change, but it's also a lot of releasing shit, stuck energy. It's not going to serve you anymore. Because if we can do this, everything in this universe is vibrating, nothing is still. So these energies just have shitty vibrations and they're very low. So if we can release them, it can actually allow us to start just vibrating at a higher level and attracting more things to us. Money also vibrates. So we want to get on the frequency of money, right? And if we're asking, if the question is, what is my frequency then? The frequency is what we frequently see.
Mm-hmm.
Our entire life. So if we're, I keep attracting the same thing. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, sister. It's you. It's you, right? But this is why we love doing the work. This is why it's so important, because we have to continually change. Like, some of my best advice to give somebody in a breakup is make sure you grow.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't grow from this, you'll attract the exact same person back to you.
Yeah.
If you don't grow from this, if you don't take responsibility on how you created the breakdown of this relationship as well, then you'll never be able to actually break through and grow into a better person and attract somebody better. You'll attract the exact same person again.
Yeah. So I have 2 questions for you before we go. The first question is, what is your next edge then? So if we're constantly growing and we're doing all the work, I want to know, what are you journeying at the moment, or what's your next edge?
What do you mean my edge? Like challenge?
Yeah, what's your next challenge? Yeah, what are you working through yourself? So I just tell everybody straight up, I'm always working on like my own ego and just humbling myself and, those kinds of things, and being really present and having more gratitude and different things in those moments. What is it for you that you're working through and working on within yourself?
Gorgeous being. It is truly my honor to have you here joining me on this co-created adventure through the strategy and energetics of 7-figure business. However it is that you landed here, whether we know each other personally or professionally, whether a friend shared this podcast with you as they thought you might get something out of it, or whether you stumbled across me by sheer accident or divine intervention, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to ask you a little favor. It is my joy to do what it is that I do every single day. And so if you have received anything here, a piece of magic, a strategy, a mindset shift, something that has transformed you in some way, I ask that you share this podcast with others so that together we can transform the world for the better. One business, one human, one frequency, and one podcast at a time. Cosmic Money, the podcast, the strategy and energetics of 7-figure business.
Biggest thing probably in business is just learning how to actually be a better business leader and communicator and manager. Like, as we're just growing my company and well, we've got 2 companies, just learning how to sort of play in these and having a lot of fun there. Definitely learning a lot there. So But then my next thing personally is, I shared this with a group the other night actually, is it's funny because like, you know, I've done some epic shit. I've done some amazing things. You know, I've traveled around the world, been interviewed by billionaires, spoken on stage with some of the most amazing people, like, you know, around the world. And it came so strong to me the other day when I was in the UK. I got flown out to the UK to speak at the biggest fitness event in the world alongside Stephen Bartlett, you know, Diary of a CEO, the founder of a business called Grenade. It's like a $1 billion company over in the UK, $1 billion Aussie company. And Chris Williamson, and then me. And I'm walking in through the hallway up to go speak, and I'm just shaking my head thinking like, what the fuck? I'm like, why am I here? Kinda. You know what I mean? I'm like I know it's good and stuff, but I'm just like, but this is wild. I'm literally speaking on stage with some of the biggest entrepreneurs in all of UK.
Yeah.
And no one in the room even knows who I am yet, because I didn't even announce me. They announced me the day before, actually. And I'm like, it was just crazy. So one of the biggest things I am still playing on is not forgetting that not too long ago, I was an audience member at events like that, soaking up, wishing that far out one day it'd be so cool to be on stage like that.
Mm.
And I'm just trying to learn as much as I can. And then now it's like, oh, Morgan, you get out there now. You're the one doing the teaching. And I'm like, this is crazy because I'm also a student.
Mhm.
And I play with sort of that idea of like, you know, and I think the biggest problem is, and it sounds douchey to say, but I think it's learning to be even better and love myself even more through the process of knowing how fucking good I actually am.
Mm.
Because the issue is, growing up in Australia with the tall poppy syndrome shit, it's like you can be good but not that good, and then you can be good but don't pretend like you know you're good.
Yeah.
And it's just such a it's such a like fucked up
Yeah.
thing. So it's just a conflict, and I just think it's very normal. So the biggest thing for me is really kind of stepping more and more into the space of going like, it's okay to know how good I am, and also be okay knowing that I've still got leaps and bounds to go still.
Mhm.
And just sort of leaning into that a little bit more, because sometimes I do play in my head thinking like, why are these people coming to my event? Like, even though we promote the shit out of it, but why are they here still? Like, what? I'm no different from all these guys. Like, I was a complete fucking mess like 8 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
And just sort of forgetting the fact like I've also done so much work in between. So yeah.
I think, like, you know I want to say this, very much from a genuine place as well, because when I sat in the audience, the first year that I came to your event, and even I have complete recollection of how I felt at the time and where I was at, and all these different things. And even in the the year between that original Dreamfest,
Yeah.
Dreamfest, and where I was at, I felt very isolated at that time. I was a little bit, my direction was a little bit out of whack. Like, we'd gone through some stuff, all the different things, and I had a broken foot, so I was limping around, and just the whole piece. And it's so interesting, even what can happen within a year. When you actually take the opportunities and the moments, and you put yourself out there and you show up, and and exactly like you're saying, walking down a hallway in UK being like, what the fuck am I even doing here? But it's those moments that really stretch us and put us into our edges, and then from there, it's like, well, what else is possible? Like, where do we get to go to now? But you have to be able to push into those edges to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So my final question, that I ask all of our guests, is if you were an animal, what? No, I'm just kidding. I made a joke.
I'd be a fucking lion.
Lion. Perfect, of course. I'd probably be like an axolotl or a sloth or something. I don't know.
You'd be a unicorn.
Definitely a unicorn, yes. Like, no questions. So my question actually is, if you could give a piece of advice, like, again, you were financially free at 23, made your first $1 million at 28. You're out there doing amazing things, helping the community, running these next level impactful events. Let me just put a shameless plug in there for you. Like, come and hang out with me in the VIP section, at Morgan's events. All right. Like, I'm not just saying that to blow it up, Morgan's ass, because he's the person who's here. Hashtag big dick energy. However, I'm saying it because I myself myself. Like, I'll be there. I'm a lifer now, and so I will show up year to year and be in that space and just soak in the magic that you've created. So if you could give people a piece of advice other than come to your events, to help support them in the strategy and the energetics to get to 7 figures and beyond, what would it be?
Yeah, you need to have a mentor. If your goal is to walk across the frozen lake, you got to follow the footsteps, right?
Yeah.
Why would you try and walk anywhere else? And the biggest, I think, beautiful thing we have in the world right now is the up and coming of so many entrepreneurs. And I really think it's only possible because of 2 reasons. First one is social media and it being so accessible for people to actually get out there, build a brand and build a business. The second thing is the amount of people that have gone before you. And like, it's just growing more and more and more and more. 100 years ago, to get access to a mentor was pretty hard. Now it's just so easy. There's so many incredible people online. We've got this podcast here, right? There's so many people that, this space is opening up. We got people like you with business programs and these podcasts and all this stuff that you can tap into and get access to. I wish I got a mentor a lot earlier on in life. Like, I kind of had one without knowing it, but I wish I picked the right one. So I would pick someone who actually has the exact life I want, not just one aspect. Yeah. I took advice from someone in the beginning who had money, but he was a loser and he was an arsehole. And his advice to me was, just go and work your ass off. I asked him for more advice and he said to me, why would I tell you anything when I've spent so much money in my life to learn it myself? You need to go learn it too. That was his advice. Cool. It's like, what the fuck, man? So the biggest advice would just be, you've got to get a mentor. Get a mentor, pay to play, get in someone's corner, ask them how they did it, and say, well, if you did it in that amount of time, you teach me how you did it, I should be able to do it in a quarter amount of time. Mm-hmm. And freaking do it. Like, that's the thing. You're here to play the game of life. Yeah. Go as hard as you can and don't be afraid to go out there and get a little bit dirty.
And there's so many amazing, genuine humans. Like, I class every single one of our guests, and you and I included, that are genuinely out there actually, walking the talk, but just wanting to serve, like the service and the impact actually comes first, and of course, income is just an energetic reflection of the service that so many amazing humans provide. So obviously, first and foremost, I do want to say thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and your genius and your genuine care for humanity here with obviously all of our amazing podcast listeners, and from an absolute genuine space, like, I really do mean this. Like, I want to thank you personally for so many amazing pieces of, gold nuggets and inspiration and rememberings, that I've been able to have myself just by being in your presence and being in an environment, and the amazing thing is that is one of the things that you are so good at, is creating an environment, creating that elevated environment, creating an environment of change, creating an environment of inspiration. And so I am very humbled, and put in my place. And, I will continue to come back to, event after event and just hang out with you and the other amazing, cool humans that we both know and that you bring in. So thank you for all of that as well.
Oh, I love and appreciate you so much. I'll see you at Dreamfest this year. It's 2 days this year. It's gonna be even bigger and badder than ever.
Yeah.
And if where people can find me is my Instagram. My Instagram at Morgan T. Nelson's #1 place. Come hang out there. And then our podcast is called Dream Out Loud. Yeah. Where we've had some amazing guests on there and been going for a few years. So there's tons of content on there as well. But maybe I'll see some of the listeners with you at the VIP.
Like on a yacht party. That's it. And and look, and I will also add that, Morgan is very generous with his time and his experiences and his support and help. So go listen to his podcast, go get amongst it, hang out in his world. As I said, like, I'm saying this from experience, from my own up leveling, from being, amongst it as well. It's just, it's going to be beneficial to you. There's absolutely something in it for everyone. So thank you. And
I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.